Nigeria today, is, I would say, averagely 200 million people. Or you could also say that Africa is averagely 1.2 billion people. Now, if you take the economics of a domain name, you pay for a domain name, and we've had some numbers here of how domain names have been sold for, as high as 200 million or 20 million. At FICAN, we have sold a top-level domain name at auction at over 100 million, if you know the story of .app. But I digress. I want us to focus on this. If you had a company or a registry, or NIRA for this case, with 166 million domain names, okay? And each domain name costs $1, just $1. That puts NIRA with at an annual turnover of $166 million. All of us here would at that point want to be the CEO of NIRA. How many companies in Nigeria today boast of a turnover of 160 million and not Naira, but dollars? That is the promise of a domain name. Today, this is VeriSign, somewhere in the US that has got these figures. So, is there money in the domain name industry? Can it make sense? If we became serious, there's nothing that stops us from doing the same. Some of us say, or some people say, that our domain names are expensive. Well, and because this is Nigerians we are talking to here largely, I think we can argue about expensive. They normally say it depends with your point of view. Expensive is relative. But $1 for the cost of a domain name is really, really relative if you say it is expensive. But even if it were expensive, can we agree not to expect domain names to be free? Because, others say, so why should I pay when I can, register an email address, wherever we normally register them? I will not say for free. My good friend, former board of NIRA, whom you know very well, Oga Sunday, has this famous saying that he normally tells us that even in Freetown, Sierra Leone, nothing is for free. Free doesn't exist. If you tell me something is free, or if somebody told you something was free and you accepted it, then, but I digress. But you can see where I'm going with that. There is nothing for free wherever you think you are getting a free service. Probably you could be actually paying much, much more than you know. Why is it so difficult to feel proud, of paying for something that builds our own? If you buy a .ng, that money goes to Nigeria, to NIRA, to pay people there, to pay services there. Some of those services get back to the very economy. If you buy any other domain name that is not an African domain name, that money goes out of Africa, not only out of your country, but out of Africa. That is just the reality of this industry. But then don't quote me. I was just saying. I would further want to break this figure down. I'm not sure if I can move slides. Okay. Now, so out of those 366 million domain names to date by current registration, if you look at the top 10 registration, something will strike you there. First of all, you will note that most of those domain names are country code names, the ones that are only 2 letters. Actually, it is 7 names out of the 10. So only 3 are GTLDs, .org, .net, and .com in the top 10. Because we have always, assumed that we cannot beat .com, in African CCTLD speak. Or, .com is the only domain name of preference. But how did 7 CCTLDs make it to the top 10? That should speak to us about the potential of our country code names. I will go further and present now only CCTLDs in the top 10 out of that registration. Again, you will see that, nothing from Africa exists in the top 10 by registration. So if I take .cn, which is the China country code names, so today they have roughly 24 million domain names. That is an organization that is a very good employer to very many people. And by the way, a registry has an ecosystem around it, website developers, app developers. It is an ecosystem. So by the time, you fully merge or calculate the actual contribution of the domain name, subsector in any digital economy, so to speak. So if you were to look at the contribution of .ng, you have to go beyond what is the registration of .ng. You have to go to how many people, use .ng. To what extent does it serve government? To what extent, does it, give opportunities to, young innovators to, do websites and innovate around .ng. So it is a whole ecosystem that, if supported properly, has the potential of really contributing to our IGDP in our various economies. But you'll see that today, nothing from Africa exists in the top 10. So to finalize, because of time, this is how Africa looks like today. We have around, so I can did a study in the year 2006, and I can bet that very little has changed to date. We have around 52 or 53 thereabout functional, registries. We do have around 55 or 54 countries in Africa. So thereabout, everyone has got a functional CCTLD registry, meaning you can register your own country code name. Okay. But out of that, to date, or at the time this report was published, only around 5 million domain names could be attributed to having been registered in the African namespace. In fact, for CCTLDs alone, that went to below 3.5 million, because out of the 5 million, around 1.5 million were taken up by generic names. So you then have around 3.5 million. Out of that 3.5 million names registered in African CCTLD namespace, almost 2 million are taken by one country, which is South Africa, under .za. That leaves us with a paltry 1.5 million to share across over 50 countries, including my Yoga brothers from Nigeria, who boast of the biggest economy in Africa. I believe something is right, not wrong somewhere. Or if it is wrong, we are about to make it right, isn't it? In other words, if I don't take a lot of time, I'm just trying to point out that this industry has a potential. So to the myth that .com cannot be beaten, in 2018, AFNIC, the .fr registry, did a very, comparative study. Just trying to confirm whether .com is really dominant, so to speak. If you look at the various regions, Africa, Latin American, and Caribbean, Asia Pacific, Europe, North America, and you look at the contribution of their CCTLDs vis-a-vis .com, in Africa, cumulative, our CCTLDs contribute to 55% of the domain names registered in Africa. .com only contributes to 36%. In fact, the only continent where .com is dominant is in North America, where it contributes for 76% of the names registered. So why do we fear .com? It is a mentality that we can actually reverse, because as we speak, our registrations are too low even to speak about. But then we can look at that as an opportunity to actually register, but very biased, register our own, register our domain names. And if that happens, I believe there'll be a significant contribution, to our economies from the domain name subsector. This is an industry. This is a business with a whole ecosystem around it that is properly supported by the private sector, by the government, can, contribute equally, just like any other, sub-economy within any particular nation. And Nigeria, I think, stands a big chance to really lead in this sector, because if only 50% of Nigerians registered .ng, I would be looking at 100 million domain names under the 10G. Then I can actually apply to be the CEO of Meta. Thank you very much, Lawrence, and I hope that was helpful.